What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenna Smith. And in this episode, we're going to dive into one of the biggest mental barriers, not just in fitness, but also in life, the fear of failure. Now, whether it's a fear of you not meeting a goal that you set for yourself, fear of getting injured, or a fear of disappointing ourselves or other people who might depend on us, fear of failure holds so many people back from reaching their full potential when it comes to athletics, when it comes to performance, when it comes to training. But again, all of this can also relate to life, but we're going to focus on it being in training and in fitness. But again, as with most lessons that you can learn through fitness, you can apply that to any area of your life in order to help you be successful. And that fear of failure holds so many people back from ever accomplishing the things that they could or even want to and dream to accomplish. So my goal with this episode is to help you break free from those fears and take bold, messy action in order to achieve your best self in not only training, but in life. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is because it's been something that just keeps coming up in my life, but also just in my mind. It's been a reoccurring thought in my head, whether it be the books that I'm reading, the podcasts that I'm listening to, the audiobooks that I'm listening to. It's just always present is fear, particularly fear of failure. Now, people do fear other things outside of failure. Fear of success is another huge thing that I've spoken about on here before. Some people fear success because it's unknown. There are more responsibilities that come with the success. You think that it could be one way, but maybe it's going to come out another way and it's not going to be what you wanted. People fear that. We fear anything that is unknown and not secure. But the fear of failure, I believe, is something that everybody can relate to because I think that we've all experienced it multiple times in our life in multiple different situations. And I've told this story in the past on the podcast, but I'll tell it again because it has such great context to this topic. It was about a year ago. I was training and I was doing a conditioning piece where it was every 3 minutes for 30 minutes of a 12 cal assault bike and dumbbell DT at 35-pound dumbbells. So DT, for those of you who aren't in the CrossFit community, it is 12 deadlifts, 9 hang power cleans, and 6 shoulder to overhead. Generally done with a barbell is the original workout. However, you can obviously modify it or make it more challenging, I would say, by doing it with dumbbells. And at the time, I had never really done overhead pressing with 35-pound dumbbells. Like, it was something that I never thought that I could do because I just said, I have poor overhead stability. So why try, right? It's kind of where the mindset was at the time. And I thought that I was like a mentally tough person until I finished this workout, told my coach, hey, I lowered the weight to 30s. And he didn't respond the way that I thought he would. I thought he'd be like, gotcha, or heard, okay, eventually we'll be able to get to those 35s or something like that. But what he said to me first was, he asked me 2 things. 1, did you have time between intervals to rest? And 2, did you even try the 35s? And my answer to both was yes, I had a lot of time between intervals. I was finishing those intervals and I still had like 90 seconds of rest. And then the second answer was no, I didn't even try 35s in the set. While I was warming up, I was like, doing 30s and I was thinking, there's no way I can do 35s. I just assumed I couldn't do it. I didn't even try. And when I told him that, he said, you wanted more rest. You wanted it to be easier. But in order for you to be successful in training, but also in life, you need to be okay with failing. And one thing he said that'll stand with me forever is, I fail in training so I can be successful in competition. And it's something that I've embraced over the last year, and it still scares me, but I say it a lot. Everything that you want is on the other side of your fears. So if it scares you, then it's probably the right thing to do. But now I don't care if I fail. And there are so many times in training, today, for example, where I'll be hitting a weight and the weight feels good for like a heavy set of power cleans. And I'll say, I shouldn't go up because it feels good here. When I should be like, that 5 pounds that I'm not going up could be the difference between me accomplishing my goals and not accomplishing my goals. It could be the difference between me winning in a competition and losing in a competition. And who gives a shit if I fail a rep? If I fail a rep, great. I've learned where the limit is, and I can learn and grow from that. That's why with failure, having a growth mindset is absolutely essential, because what happens if you have a fixed mindset is when you fail, which is going to happen in life. You do not get out of life without failing. And if you are never failing, I would argue you are not pushing yourself hard enough. But if you fail and you have a fixed mindset, what generally happens is you start telling yourself, I am a failure. I can't do these things. You talk shit on yourself. And that's never going to get you anywhere. But if you have a growth-based mindset, what happens instead is that you say, okay, this happened. What can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? What good can come from it? And I truly believe the difference between somebody who's successful and somebody who stays stuck or somebody who settles for mediocrity is having a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. But let's talk about defining the fear of failure, right? So what is it? So fear of failure, pretty straightforward. It's the fear of not achieving a desired outcome, the fear of making mistakes, the fear of falling short, feeling inadequate, feeling like you're not enough. It's basically a feeling of vulnerability that leads to inaction. So we fear something. We fear that we might not be successful in it. For example, you load 135 on a back squat, and you have this fear that you might fail a rep. So instead of trying and failing, or maybe even succeeding, which generally happens a lot more than you would think, you just don't do the squat. You lower it. You lower the weight. And you do exactly what you've always done, and you stay stuck, and you never push the barrier. And this happens a lot of the times because we have fear of judgment, we have self-doubt, or we have this feeling that we don't want to feel, right? The feeling of not being good enough. And that can all contribute to this fear. And people often attach their self-worth to their success, especially in fitness, where physical results are so visible. Now, the fear of failure can manifest in a few different ways when it comes to fitness, when it comes to your training. 3 things: perfectionism and fear of being imperfect. So some people avoid training altogether because they fear they won't perform perfectly. This fear can manifest itself in skipping workouts, avoiding new challenges, not giving your best effort, being afraid of what if it hurts, that type of situation, being afraid of failing reps, not moving up in weight because of that fear, not pushing the barriers because of that fear. And the reality is, if you're not pushing yourself to your fullest potential, which I would argue a good chunk of people who work out do not push themselves hard enough. They don't know what it feels like to push themselves hard enough. If you're somebody who thinks that working out is boring, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And it's because we set these barriers or these limits or this ceiling to what we could do, when in all reality, the barrier is all the way across the street. You can't even see it, but you think it's right in front of your face. Another one is a fear of injury. So people might hold back on lifting heavier weights or pushing themselves in a workout because they're afraid of getting injured. And now this fear can absolutely hinder your progress. I've been there, right? I hurt my back last year. Well, not even last year. Technically, I guess, because it's 2025. I hurt my back in July of 2024. And since then, I've had lots of flare-ups, lots of other injuries, herniating discs. I've had a lot of issues. And I have training sessions still, recently, weekly, where I cry because I am so scared that I'm going to hurt myself again. And it's a very real fear. But one thing that's helped me is reframing that thought and reminding myself, Caitlin, you are okay. Trust your body. Your body is an incredible, resilient thing. You are strong, you are capable, you are taking care of yourself. And more than anything, trust your fitness. Trust the work that you've put in up to this point. Trust the recovery. Trust your body's ability to heal. And if you've had an injury, then you probably fall into this category. Or maybe you haven't had an injury, but maybe you know somebody who has. Or maybe you've seen a video on social media where you see someone get injured and you don't want that to happen to you. But the truth of the matter is, injury could happen. Absolutely. But injury could happen whether you're working out or not. You could walk down the street and trip and hurt yourself. You could turn around to hand your kid something in the back seat and twist your shoulder. You could try to pick something up and herniate a disc. It could happen outside of fitness, and generally it happens outside of fitness because people lack the strength, they lack the mobility, they lack the stability, they lack the rotation, they lack all of these things because they are not training, because they are not lifting weights, because they are not paying attention to their health. So I would argue that training appropriately with good form and technique will help prevent injury. But so many people look at it from the other angle. And the third thing is comparison to others. The fear of not measuring up to other people in the gym, on social media, whether it's lifting weights or running faster or achieving a better body composition. A lot of people can just hesitate all around because they think that they can't satisfy something that they've seen on social media or in the gym. Which is why I always remind people to do this for you. This is a you versus you journey. You can compare yourself to other people if you'd like, but only people that you have any business comparing yourself to. And most of the time, we're not comparing ourselves to anybody that we have business comparing ourselves to. You'll compare yourself to somebody that you see on social media who's been doing this 10 years longer than you have. They've put in the time, they've put in the work, they've put in the effort. They've overcome their fear of failure, and they've put in the effort much longer and much harder than you have. I do this a lot, but then I have to constantly remind myself that, like, hey, this person has been doing this for X amount of time. They've done more work than me. I don't deserve to be at their level yet. I haven't put in the time. So what I do instead of comparing myself to other people is I compare myself to who I was yesterday, last month, last year, 10 years ago. If I'm growing, that is all that matters. And I have to check myself sometimes to make sure that, one, I am still growing and I'm not becoming complacent and I'm still pushing myself and I'm still overcoming those fears of failure. And you have to do the same. Because this fear of failure can hold you back because it can provide missed opportunities. So if you don't try, you miss out on the chance to grow, on the chance to improve. And every failure is a learning opportunity. But if you don't fucking fail, then you can't learn. You can't learn if you don't try. It's kind of like the analogy. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. If you never take the shot, you will definitely not make it. But if you take the shot, you have a chance of making it. A damn good chance, too. And guess what? You can always retake the shot. You can learn and you can take it again. One thing, though, with fear of failure is that it leads to inconsistent progress. Because that fear causes hesitation, which leads to inconsistent effort in training, nutrition, recovery, inconsistent action. If you're not consistently giving your best effort or consistently even doing the things, you won't see the results. You have to focus on being consistently good instead of occasionally great. Anybody can show up, give their best one time. But can you continue to do that consistently? And then this fear just takes a mental and emotional toll on the individual. Fear creates stress, anxiety, frustration, and it can lead to a negative mental cycle that affects motivation, confidence, and your overall well-being. So you need to overcome this fear of failure in training. You have to shift your mindset and embrace the idea that failure is not final, it's feedback. So each failure teaches you something about yourself, something about your body, and something about what you need to adjust in order to be successful. You have to adopt that growth-based mindset that we spoke about. So instead of thinking that you're failing, you're a failure, Think of it as I'm learning, I'm improving, and I'm going to get better. So focus on effort over perfection, progress and effort over perfection every time. And be kind to yourself. Understand that everyone fails at some point. Nobody is perfect. Not even the best are perfect. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. You're weak if you fail and then you stay in that spot. Overcome that shit. Set realistic goals. So set small, achievable goals to avoid overwhelming yourself. Take that big goal that you have and break it up into smaller chunks so you can celebrate progress along the way and see improvement over time. Confidence is simply the memory of winning. And if you never celebrate your wins, you will never build confidence or belief in yourself. And that is a huge factor in success. Focus on process, not just the results. So instead of only focusing on the outcome, whether it's hitting a PR, hitting a specific weight, appreciate and focus and give everything to the process. The hard work, the journey, the discipline, the workouts, the consistency you put in every day. Enjoy that fucking journey because you're only in it for a little bit of time and it flies by. So trust the process, be in your process and give everything you have to it, and the results will follow. And finally, reframe your failure. So change your perspective on failure. Instead of thinking of it as a negative experience, reframe it as this is a necessary part of the process. It's a necessary part of success because every single failure is going to get you one step closer to mastering your craft, to becoming the person that you want to be. So I want to give you guys a couple of practical strategies that you can overcome this fear. Take action regardless. That is the number one thing. Fear won't go away. So don't wait for it to disappear before you take action. Do it despite the fear. Do it shaking. Do it with that pit in your stomach. Do it with the butterflies. Take action. Visualize your success. So use mental imagery to visualize yourself succeeding. Picture yourself hitting the weight, hitting the snatch, hitting the power clean, running the mile, not the fear, not the failure, but with confidence and control. Visualize success. And then you have to seek and embrace discomfort because discomfort is where growth happens. You have to truly become comfortable with being uncomfortable, knowing that the only way to improve is by challenging yourself. And this applies in both physical and mental growth. And one that people overlook is surrounding yourself with support. It's a huge thing. So be in a community that encourages growth and resilience. Join groups, get a coach, have your friends or your spouse, connect with like-minded people who understand and support your journey. It helps so much. I can't even begin to express that. And don't forget to actually track your progress so you can celebrate the small wins, whether it's writing down your PRs, keeping a journal, or logging of your workouts, and celebrating the mindset wins that you have as well. So celebrate every small success, even the minor improvements that you might often overlook, and most of us do. And as this reinforces positive behavior, it's going to also reduce fear because you've been able to overcome things. So you need to move beyond the fear in order to achieve success because true growth happens outside of your comfort zone. You can't expect to reach your full potential by playing it safe. It's not going to happen. You have to risk it for the biscuit, as they would say. And every time you face your fears and push past them, you actually unlock new levels of confidence, strength, and success every time. And it's going to help you build mental resilience because overcoming fear is not just about training your body. It's about training your mind to keep pushing even when it feels tough. Mental toughness is built by consistently showing up even when things don't go perfectly. And remember, you are not defined by your failures. The number of times you fail doesn't define you. It's how you respond. You are defined by your ability to get back up and keep going. So I want to encourage you guys to take one small action today that you've been avoiding due to fear. This could be going for a run, trying a new exercise, lifting heavier weights in the gym, or even asking for support on your fitness journey. Fear of failure is natural, but it doesn't have to control you. It doesn't have to control your actions. And the key is to not eliminate fear, but is to help you learn how to move forward despite it. So remember, do it shaking. And go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.